10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to the Dreamteam podcast for this week, round 14 in the NRL. I'm Jay Moneyball Hellaby and I'm here with my ever-faithful co-host, Nathan Banksy Banks. How are you this week, Banksy?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been a up and down week studying for exams.
Good fun. And you get to study for maths. I
Only
was
one math.
so glad to leave that behind when I graduated high school.
I only got one math paper I study for. That one's management.
Fair enough. Well, Banksy, this week, mate, we got through one of the minor buy rounds, the smaller buy rounds, and we saw some movement, of course. I ended up with a 778 that bounced me 17 places up the rankings to an overall ranking of 80th, which I was quite stunned about. How did you go, mate?
I ranked up at 727 of 17 players, and I dropped 40 places down to 294th.
Wow. So, I mean, there was effectively 50 points between you and I, and that was the difference. You dropped a stack of places, and I gained a small handful.
Well, it's not a stack. It's only 40 places.
Well, you dropped 40 down to close to the 300 mark. But, I mean, it really does illustrate just how close this competition is at the moment. I think the only one sort of with a bit of a clear lead would have to be Daniel Long sitting in first with his team Pandas. I think he's got about 122 points on second place.
I think he would be somewhere around about that.
Yeah.
I'm actually not too sure.
He's going gangbusters, mate.
He's got 100 years. He's got 121 points lead over Slater Magic from Judith. Or should we invert Judith?
Yeah, no, he's doing very, very well. So mad shout out, mad props to Daniel Long. Now, as some of you may have picked up, I'm not my usual bright and annoyingly sprightly self. I've got a little bit of a throat, frog, croak, cold, whatever you want to call it. We'll just call it man flu for short, I reckon. So we'll soldier on and get through the podcast as best as we possibly can. If I do end up dying at some point, I apologise in advance. So, Banksy, today, mate, what have we got to start off with?
Well, the main topic is can you look past Benji Marshall or not?
Yeah, fair enough. Should we? Why don't we have a look at team lists quickly, and then we'll get into Benji Marshall. Who should we be trading him for? Who should we be going to, or who should we be going from? I should say.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Sounds a plan.
Let's have a look at these team lists. See if we can do them in record time. So Dragons versus Cowboys, the 14th of June, down at Wynn Stadium. Dragons side racks up as Dugan, Morris, Green, Pryor, Nightingale, Stanley, Fiend, Hunt, Rain, Wayman, Frizzell, Gray, Merrin. Interchange bench of King, Armour, DeBellin and Stockwell. Thank you, Steve Price, for just having 4 names on your bench. Cowboys, look, this side will change closer to kickoff. James Tamu has been suspended from this game. He's also been suspended from Origin 2 for his drink driving charge earlier in the week. He blew nearly 4 times the legal limit. He's also been fined 20 grand for those interested. But Cowboys are Green Shields, Graham, Tate, Lynette, Winterstein, Thurston, Louis, Scott, Thompson, Tarmow, obviously not Tarmow, Sims, Hall, Johnson. Extended bench, Cost Jason, Tua Malolo, Sims, Bolton, Thorby, and our bet is on Sims or Bolton to move into the starting side. Not quite sure who is yet, but keep an eye on those team lists. Thurston back for the Cowboys.
Bolton to Bolton.
Which will be a good sort of boost for them. You reckon Bolton to get in, hey?
Bolton to Bolton.
Bolton to Bolton. All right, Sea Eagles. Hiku, Tafua, Lyon, Matai, Williams, Foreign, Cherry Evans, Lawrence, Ballon, Kite, Watmo, Horo, Stewart, and 4-man bench of Hassan, Simmons, Bura, and Rose. On the note of Peter Hiku, my word is that Brett Stewart's not that far from coming back from his back injury, so don't be surprised if there's a late change there, though Hiku's been in sensational form.
I'm surprised they didn't change a lot of that team, considering they lost to the Warriors.
Yes, well, let's move on.
Especially Steve Matai.
Hey, no, he scored 38 Dreamteam points, mate. Back off.
Could have scored about 50 odd if he didn't drop all those bloody balls.
You're never happy. Never happy, Banksy. All right, Bulldogs. We've got Barber, Brown, Morris, Inu, Parrott, Reynolds, Hodkinson, Tolman, Ennis, Cassiano, Pritchard, Williams, Eastwood, and Hallertau, Jackson, Graham, Finnecane, and Tim Brown make a five-man bench. Tim Brown expected to drop off, assuming all goes ahead as planned. The Raiders, after putting the Broncos to the sword, go up against the Panthers on the 15th. And Raiders read as Robinson, White and Croker, Ferguson, Lee, Campese, McCrone, Tills, Buttress, White, Parley, Thompson, Fensom. And the interchange bench for Milford, Edwards, Shillington and Vaughan. Milford's definitely going to be one to watch in later years when he starts and then getting on the paddock from the first whistle, I reckon, there, Banksy.
Isn't he 19 years old, 18 years old? He's talented.
Oh, mate, he's a young kid and he's got plenty of talent, so it'll be good to see what happens with him and watch his career closely. I know a few of my mates who are Raiders fans are very excited to see what's coming from it. Moving on to the Panthers. As a result of the second-tier salary cap snafu, Nagama is still in number one, with Robinson, Mansour, Ware, Simmons, John, Walsh, Plum, Kingston, Masso, Manu, Brown, Docker. The bench will be Yarrow, Robinson, Serraldo, Newton, Ryan Simpkins as 18th man. Just watch that Wes Nagama spot. Phil Gould's working very, very hard to sort out the salary, the second-tier cap limitations so that Moylan can come back into the side. So just watch closely because there may be late changes there.
There might be a late injury to somebody.
Yeah, Tonya Harding style. Take a crowbar to the kneecap. Okay, moving along, we've got the Sharks versus Eels, 15th of June. Sharks line up as Gordon, Fecky, Pomeroy, Wright, Ryan, Carney, Robson, Feeder, Morris, Ross, Lewis, Graham, and Paul Gallen makes his return. The interchange bench, extended interchange with Hyington, Bakuya, De Gois, Tupu, Peachy, and Tagatese, which suggests very strongly that Gallen and Lewis may not actually take the field and that Tagger and Peachy will be filling in there.
I think Lewis will.
You think Lewis will?
Gallen probably won't, because Lewis played last week.
Yeah. Look, there's been a lot of talk that Gallen's not going to play for the Sharks until after Origin.
Well, that's what we did last year with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was ruled out of last week's game by injury before he even got suspended. So that's why he took the suspension for. So he might not be right this week. He'll be right for Origin too.
Interesting. So, I don't know, that all seems dodgy. That one's got under the radar. But anyway, let's not focus on conspiracy theories because otherwise James Tarman will be the victim of a CIA conspiracy. The Eels line up. Jake Mullaney in place for Jared Hayne. Mullaney, sorry. CO, Morgan Blair, Williami, Paolo, Sandow, Mana Keating, Moi, Matua, Ryan Taripo. And then the interchange, Roberts, Lussick, Allgood, and Pato Hanlon. Good to see Rennie Matua back in the side. Hopefully he runs on, puts in a good performance, and picks himself up for next season.
Probably somewhere else, though.
I suspect he will be somewhere else, yeah. The Eels have pretty much burnt that bridge, I think. But moving on, Rabbitohs versus Titans.
Also, interesting to note.
Yep.
Go back to the Eels. Lyco's been dropped because he didn't turn up to a Bulwark session on Monday. So he's playing New South Wales Cup this weekend. He's named at lock, probably just to get him more running and getting him a little bit better at defence. Also, Kaiser Pritchard's also playing New South Wales Cup, so he could be a late call-up for Ben Roberts.
Good info there, Banksy. All right, moving on. Rabbitohs versus Titans. This one being played up in Cairns at Barlow Park. Rabbitohs lineup is Inglis, Merritt, Goodwin, Walker, Everingham, Sutton, Reynolds, Terrell, Luke, Asatasi, McQueen, Teo, and Sam Burgess. Interchange bench of Kiri, Lima, Starling, George Burgess, and extended with Lowe, Hunt, and Peets. Expect Lowe, Hunt, and Peets to be the ones that drop off there. And the Titans lineup is Zillman, Gordon, Takarangi, Idris, Don, Caesar, Kelly, Bailey, Shrama, Miles, Bird, Minicello, Harrison. Interchange bench of Taylor, Douglas, James, Irwin, and Ridge. Van Ridge could be a late inclusion. It'll be interesting to see who drops off there. I wouldn't be game to pick it. These two are the sides that had the bye last week, so they should be coming out and going full ball. We may see a few drop balls, and that is typical after a week off, but it'll definitely be a fast-paced, hard-hitting match up against. Storm versus Knights. Storm lineup. Slater, Wacker, Chambers, Blair, O'Neill, Widdop, Cronk, Bromwich, Smith, Norrie, Proctor, Hoffman, Hinchcliffe. Bench of Riles, Harris, Moores, and McLean. While the Knights lineup is Boyd, McManus, Gagai, Leilua, Nguama, Mullen, Roberts, Snowden, Waddell, Mason, Rockow, Houston, Smith, and extended interchange of Clydesdale, Fayalogo, Scott, Sims and Neville Costigan. Roosters v Warriors. Line up for the Roosters: Minicello, Tupu, Jennings, Kenny Dow, Tuivasa Sheck, Maloney, Pearce, O'Donnell, Friend, Kennedy, Orbison, Sonny Bill Williams, Cordner. Interchange bench of Mortimer, Nuasala, Guerra and Isaac Liao, who has been doing quite well since coming on board and getting some game time. Warriors lineup: Locke, Fisiahi, Nielsen, Hurl, Vadove, Leilui, Johnson, Rapira, Friend, Packer, Mateo, Mannering, Taylor. Extended bench here with Madalino, Lillyman, Ika Hahifo, Haro, Laumape, Matagai, and Gubb.
Yep.
That was a mouthful, that one.
Have you died?
Mate, I'm still here. I'm doing all right. There's horrible itch in my throat, but and it's I can feel it swelling up. But anyway, Broncos versus West Tigers. We shall soldier on. Broncos lineup: Norman, Hoffman, Reed, Hodges, Kahu, Prince, Wallace, Maguire, McCulloch, Thaiday, Glenn, Gillette, Parker. Extended bench of Hunt, Haller, Dodds, Wallace and Luai. Interesting, no Hannett as yet for the Broncos. West Tigers lineup: Meany, Nofaluma, Ashford, Simona, Reddy, Marshall, Sirenen, Woods, Isefa, Blair, Pettybourne, Murdoch, Masala, Anasta. And on the bench, Sue Buchanan, Sui Manafagai, and Jared Farlow, who I haven't seen in the team list this year. Interesting
He
to
played
know.
last week.
Oh, did he? There you go. Ashford is back, and Joel Reddy's back. He was back last week, actually. See, I didn't pay much
He was
attention
playing
to
in
it
centres.
last week because it was State of Origin and we were too busy losing all our Blues fans.
Yeah. Reddy has not missed a game all season for the Tigers. He's probably about the only player who hasn't.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, well, seeing as we've just finished on the note of the Tigers, and Benji Marshall is a hot topic. You know, he's pumped out 2 good scores. He's got a break even of -21 this week, and I think he scored 62 last week. He pumped out a 40 or 50 odd the week before. Is Benji back?
Is Benji back? That is the big question. Last week we saw 38 points from kick meters alone from Benji. That's more than double any of his other scores he normally gets from kick meters. That's the difference in not having that bull hog Farah there.
Interesting. So you're saying to me that Farah's injury is making Benji or improving Benji's Marshall's stats?
It is, very much so.
So
You'll definitely see the next 2 weeks.
Does this mean that Benji Marshall's back for good, or does this mean that Benji Marshall is a great pick to have over the Origin period with Farah out, either playing Origin or resting a smashed up jaw?
I think he is going to be, at the moment, I think he is the best lower priced half to buy in the competition because he plays the next round in 15. He's going to have the next 2 weeks supposedly with Farah not there, so you're going to see again big kick meters coming from him. His attacking flair has been coming back lately, and when he starts putting on that attacking flair, he starts doing his try assists, his tackle busts, his line breaks assist. He starts doing all that sort of stuff, and that's the sort of stuff that gets Benji points. And he's also kicking again too.
And he's goal kicking again. Excellent. Okay, so pretty much everything across the board is coming back for Benji Marshall, and Farah being out is just a bonus. I mean, do you see Benji consistently pumping out, 60s when Farah's back?
When has Benji ever been consistent? Yes, he will give you a 60 and a 70 game once every couple of weeks, but you're going to average about 40 to 50 points from him. You might get that in a whole bunch of 50s and a whole bunch of 20s, or you might get 50, then 35, and that sort of range. You don't know if Benji, he's that type of player.
All right. Well, with Benji Marshall then, and he is that X factor. He can pump out a 20 or he can pump out an 80. He has that sort of range of fluctuation. A lot of people are talking about making the trade of Albert Kelly to Benji Marshall, obviously freeing up 150,000 plus under their salary cap. Is this a good trade? Are they actually going to be losing anything by going Kelly to Marshall?
They're not going to be losing any. In my opinion, they are both similar players in terms of they're quite an attacking style half, where they score the bulk of their points on attacking plays and setting up tries and scoring tries. That's how they score their points. So you're trading like for like in terms of players. So you're going to get those rises of 20s and 30s and the 60s and 70s with both players. Benji has a better track record of staying up higher for longer. And if you do make that trade, you are freeing up 142k, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's pretty
You're freeing
phenomenal.
up.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, you're freeing up 142k 900.
Yeah, and you're picking up a player for round 15.
Cully already was that if you had Cully.
Yeah, true. Yeah, cool.
But they have the same buys too now as well.
Yeah.
Both missing 18, and they're both going to be the same scoring player. Like, if you have that trade up your sleeve, well, I don't even think you need to trade. If you need to find some cash, that's the way to do it.
Look, I'm in agreement with you. I think the absence of Farah definitely means that Benji Marshall's lower end scoring is going to improve. While Farah's not there, Benji, you won't see him, well, hopefully won't see him pump out a 20. I believe that instead of where 20 might be his lowest potential score, it could be a 35 or something because of the extra kick meters and the extra responsibility he has.
Yeah, that's definitely what's going to happen for Benji over the next 2 weeks. At least you're going to see some, I reckon you're going to see 245 plus point scores from him. He's playing the Broncos and he's playing the Raiders.
And he likes playing both of those sides. I know he loves playing the Broncos, and the Tigers have always given the Broncos a bit of a hard time.
Especially around Origin time.
And Monday Night Football. Broncos don't like that Monday Night Football.
And at Suncourt Stadium where Benji debuted for the Tigers.
There you go.
I think.
Oh,
I know he played a game up there very early in his career.
He's making a big call early on. All right then. So what about other options? We've seen quite a few trades. We've seen people trading Isaac John to Benji Marshall. We've seen.
What did you get Isaac John for? I told you not to get John. A few weeks ago when we did halves, it was John, Milford, and Louis. I told you to get on Louis. Did you get on Louis? No. If you got on Louis last week, you got 87 from him.
Are you done, Benji?
And the big price rises to come. Not really.
Are you done? You sorted?
No. Oh, I actually wanted to go back on Benji. I was wrong. He debuted against the Knights. He did.
There you go. I didn't bring Isaac John in. However, numerous people have and are now making the Isaac John to Benji Marshall trade. In fact, 524 trades of that exact trade have happened thus far. Interestingly, 361 trades of Albert Kelly to Benji Marshall have happened, and they're the two main trades that are happening that are listed in the top 10 trades this particular week.
The Isaac John to Benji Marshall trade, I think, is a very smart trade. You've made your money off Isaac John. Time to run with it. Yeah. He ain't gonna make too much more money.
And like I'm looking at this week, I'm looking at going Josh Reynolds to Benji Marshall. What are your thoughts on that one?
Now that one there, if you came to me prior to Origin and you said that, I said, you're talking crazy, mate. Get Benji in another way. But now with Reynolds being involved with Origin, and you would expect him to be picked for Origin 2, either at hooker or off the bench again, that you would see him not play for 15 or 16, so you need to get a player in. You can't run that sort of missing link, so to speak, where you could free up 100k getting Benji in this week and getting very similar, if not better, scores than what J Ray could put out.
Well, that's it. I mean, J Ray has always been my X factor, and that has always been the concern. But one thing that I do notice doing that J Ray to Benji trade allows me to do, as well as another trade elsewhere, is I'm sitting with 200 grand. Like I'll let you, while we're on this topic, I'll have a chat about what my trades are this week. Now that oh, by the way, I won the head-to-head against old mate from that other group, from Renegades. It ended up being a bit of a flogging by about 111 points, and yeah, unfortunately they gave him no end of stick for it. So if you're ever wondering, about the group that you're in, and that, just be grateful that you're in a group that values your opinion and respects you as a person, because it certainly doesn't happen in every group around the joint. But I've gone Robbie Rockout out this week. I think his time is definitely up, and holding on to him is going to see any of the gains that I picked up completely and utterly evaporate. And I'm looking at Tony Williams. I'm looking at T-Rex. He plays in 15. He plays in 18. He's close to bottoming out. His break even is 49. He picked up a 45 last week. He was a little bit busier last week than what he has been for a while. The Bulldogs are starting to fire, so I expect that he might start to pick up a few more stats and that sort of thing, and a few more points on the back of that. But most importantly, Rockhour's priced at about 314,000, and Tony Williams is down at 236,900. So I free up another 70k. And then that's going to allow me next week to bring in Corey Parker or bring in somebody similar.
I did not know. I didn't know it was that low.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was that low. That one is really killing him.
That one's really killing him. And look, I'm looking at it he could pump out a 49, he could pump out a 30, and I've looked at his scores, he's been consistently in the 30s, which is what I'm going to get from Rockow if I hold on to him. The difference is that by holding on to Rockow, I'll get the same scores as what T-Rex has produced over the start to the season with the same fluctuations, but I will lose that 70k. Whereas if I make the trade and go to Tony Williams, I end up with an extra player for round 15. I free
And
up
18.
70 and 18. I free up 70 grand in the bank, and he does still have that little bit of an X factor. I mean, there is a reason he was priced at what he was at the start of the year. Sure, he hasn't shown that form, but form is temporary. So I'm kind of having a bit of a roll of the dice and backing that he's going to improve and that his scores are going to improve as the Bulldogs improve, but also looking at what I can do with that 70 grand, because at the end of the day, Tony Williams won't be in my final 17. He'll be in my final 25, but he won't be in my final 17 because I will have guys like Corey Parker and Paul Gallen and whatnot in that 17.
I think a lot of, unless you can't make those trades next week and you're playing some more next week, I'm thinking if Tony Williams busts out another decent score like another 40, everybody will jump on him next week.
Look, and I am rolling the dice here. This is roulette. And it is a little bit away from my plan, and we've had this discussion before about getting away from my plan is often dangerous. But this is a move I feel I have to make in order to be able to. And look, to be honest with you, it was always a planned move that I was going to be dropping Rockow out to somebody in that sort of price range, and it just happens that Tony Williams has that prior form. He's got the consistency in the scoring. As much as his scores haven't been what everyone expected, they haven't been terrible. They've been in the 30s. The only reason his average is 30 is because he pumped out a 1 and got injured. That happens.
Doesn't help his score, but yeah, he has a pedigree, a track record, just like a Barber and a Gagai that people have brought in. So he is up and down. You got to ride that with Tony Williams. I remember last year he was up and down. He scored. He's capable of banging out 70s and 80s on his day, but he will give you 20 some days too.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the thing with Tony Williams is there's probably 1 week and 1 week only, and maybe 2 at max, because round 15 Parker will be on Origin camp. So let's say 2 weeks where he will be in my starting 17 until I bring in Corey Parker. He'll then take a spot on my bench and be injury cover for when I run out of trades.
Yeah, he's definitely that sort of player. I think he will be picked up by a lot more next week in their 3-trade rush to sort their team out.
Yeah.
But he's worth a risk. But in saying that, if you trade him in, you're either going to hold him for 2 weeks and then trade him up because he's gone crap, or you're going to hold him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and look, that's a fair statement, and to be perfectly honest, I'm hoping to hold him for the rest of the year. I'm hoping that, if he pumps out a consistent 35 to 40 points a game, I'll call that, a win, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think anything, ideally, your bench run home, your 4 bench players, you want about, I'd say roughly about 180 to 200 points from them, and that's coming from about 60 from Farah, and probably about 40 to 50s from the other 3, either from your halves, your front row forwards, your second row forwards, or your wing fullbacks if you want a chance you are most weeks. But you want roughly about 180 to 200 points on your 4 reserves, and he's going to be there or thereabouts. He's going to be your nice 18th man, which you need a solid 18th man as a first drop pick, a first drop reserve.
Yeah.
That's still scoring consistently well.
And that's exactly it, and I mean, like, when I cash out Nathan Peets after the Origin period and that, Tony Williams will sit there to give me that depth because Nathan Peets will go to a nuffy or something like that. And that's his purpose. That's what I have him there for.
Definitely a good trade. That's why you've got Sam Burgess up front as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I can always move Sam Burgess, into the second row if I need to. But I really like her. But that's another story. We've sidetracked there a little bit, and but hopefully that sort of gives everybody some insight into the thinking behind the trades and the way that we do look at it. Now, we mentioned a couple of players there when we were talking about bench. We talked about Farah. Farah's out injured. He's got Origin. Is it time? Should we be dropping Farah?
I think if you have Cameron Smith, you might be wise to look at maybe trading him to an Ennis or an Isaac Luke. It might be wise to do that. there's not too many other options out there. There's a sneaky one that I don't want to say, but I will say, Ryan Hinchcliffe. He should play hooker for the Storm during those 15 and 18 when Cameron Smith is out, and he should relieve Smith and Hoffman a bit more on their return matches, especially in 16. So you could be getting some good 45, 50 points up from him.
Yeah, look, I think there's some good potential in Hinchcliffe there. Having said that, I don't, depending on the trade situation, my overall strategy has been very trade heavy. It's go all out. As a result of some not so wise decisions and injuries and things like that, I may actually end up with less than the planned sort of 4 or 5 trades that I was hoping to have once I got my perfect 17. If your trade situation, look, if you've got less than 13 trades and you've got Cameron Smith and Robbie Farah, don't trade out Robbie Farah. That's my call on it. The main reason being is that you'll trade him out. You'll then want to get him back after the Origin period where he starts dominating and the Tigers are warming up because, they are a back end of the season team anyway. And they're going to start firing towards the back end of the season. And you're going to want to bring Robbie Farah back in. You're going to have to find $500,000 to do that. It'll cost you more than just the in and out trade or out and in trade because you'll be trading out other blokes in order to free up the cash to bring back Robbie Farah. There's no way you'll sit, or most people won't be able to sit with $500,000 or $400,000 sitting in the bank having traded Farah out and keep it there. You're going to want to spend it. That's a lot of money.
You wouldn't trade Farah up to enough. You'd trade him up to somebody who plays like a Hinchcliffe, like a Luke, like an Ennis.
But still, you'd free up, say, $200,000-300,000, and that'd be sitting there. You're not going to leave it sitting there. You're going to end up spending it. You'll go Gordon to Inglis, because Gordon's due to lose a shitload of money this week. Or you'll go, any one of a number of other trades.
There's definitely plenty out there to do.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And speaking of which, what should people be doing with Michael Gordon at the moment? He put in a 16 last week. He's really not the Michael Gordon we know and love.
I think the injury's not helping him too much. They come up against a well-oiled, on-form Storm team does not help anybody score well. It's very hard to score well against him on fullback.
Yeah.
He's still struggling. If you need to get in somebody like a Nofo Lomo or another buy cover player because you've lost Loco as well this week, maybe he is time to trade. But ideally for me, he's still going to be in that top wing one of those top wing fullback centred players at the end of the season. So I don't see a point in trading him out because you probably want him back in later in the season.
Yeah, unless of course you're trading him out for a Greg Inglis.
But it depends who else you also have in your wing fullback position.
Yes, that's absolutely fair. Cool. You mentioned there David Nofaloma, who cash-wise has just had the largest rise in a single week. He went up by $71,200 and has a break-even of -47 this week. This rookie on the wing is averaging 50.33. Now, I'm not even going to insult you by saying, should you have Nofaluma in your side? The answer is yes. The big question is it too late to get him?
And yeah, he has an injury concern. Like he went down injured about 30 minutes left in the game on Sunday, and he still managed. He was sitting on about 60 then he was. So imagine he played the whole freaking 80 minutes. He could have scored 90, 100 points.
Yeah. And
I would have been rolling in the cash. And others too.
Yeah, but is it time should people be jumping on him now after a $70,000 price rise, I should say, or have they missed the boat?
Have they missed the boat? Obviously not. He's got a break even of -47. He's still going to go up another 60K or something. He is this week alone. If he bangs out another 50 odd or something, I think it's like in the 40. He bangs out like a 45. He makes about 60K still, and then you still have another nice low break even after that to make more money, as well as being a buy cover in round 15 for you. He is a guy that, there you go.
I was going to say, it sounds to me like you're telling me that even at 171,000 or 172,000, you need to be getting on him.
Yeah, even if if you're really low on trades and you've been really trade heavy, then no. Even if you hold him for 2-3 weeks and make 50, 60, 70, 100K off him and score, say like 40, 60, 70 points, it's still worth it, in my opinion. He's still got you that 100K closer to whatever your original target was. Maybe it wasn't Inglis, maybe it's a Dugan.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. Particularly that break even of -47. That's the biggest draw card. If he walks out onto the field, makes one tackle, walks off, he still makes 20 grand.
Yeah, but also, another thing is like he's priced at 172k. He rose 671k. He's at having an average of 50 points a game. He could be a keeper. He could be a keeper for that price. And why wouldn't you get on with him? He could be scoring 50 points each week, even coming from the wing. Yeah, he'll be up and down, but we've seen his ups. And who wouldn't be on it? He could be like a Josh Mansell from last year.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, Josh Mansour's starting price was over 300k mark this year, so that sort of gives you an idea. Mansour got quite high price-wise. So, all right, Nofas are definite.
If you haven't already.
Yeah, if you're not on him already. What about Tarek Sims?
Now, Sims is a trickier prospect. He's in my team, and I'm contemplating whether he should come out of my team or not at the moment. It's like I'm personally still throwing up plenty of trades. I've got the potential trade of even doing mana straight to Woods or something. But like I'm looking, do I trade out Sims? Do I cash him out this week or do I trade him up? What do I do with him? Do I hold him another week? Do I see how he performs this week? And looking at the scores from the last 2 weeks, he's been quite quiet in terms of attacking stats where he's produced his big scores from. Yeah. Yes, his running's been up there, but he hasn't been breaking the line. He hasn't been offloading. He hasn't been breaking the tackles. His tackles have been slightly down on his big score week. He's been a little bit quiet. He's been kept quiet by the Titans and the Bulldogs lately.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Titans match was absolutely dreadful for him, and to be honest with you, the Cowboys didn't get a lot of ball. That possession was 60% to the Titans there, and their completion of sets was pretty lackluster. The Bulldogs, they just rode roughshod all over the Cowboys, and the Roosters, well, they pretty much did the same. I mean, these are strong defensive sides. If you look at the Bulldogs, Titans, and Roosters, the Bulldogs, okay, they're a top 8 side now. They've been building, and their game against the Cowboys was probably their best defensive game that they've had in a while. The Tigers were pretty appalling defensively. The Roosters are a very solid defensive outfit. Now, the interesting thing is the Rabbitohs are very, very defensive, very solid defensive outfit, but made 32 tackles, made a lot of meters, 10 points from each game.
He's got roughly about a break even about 38, doesn't he, or 37? 44. I thought it was a bit lower than that. Okay, so he's got a bit of he's got a high break even, so to speak, for his scoring. But he will still score about 25, 30 points. He'll drop about 10, 15k, won't he?
If he makes his projected score of 30, he drops 9,400.
Yes, it's only 10k he drops if he hits 30. So I think he's worth holding another week to see what happens with him, and then maybe looking to push him to maybe a Tony Williams, who both plays 15 and 18, and you get that extra game.
And I mean, Sims is up against the Dragons too, and their line hasn't been as strong as what it has been in previous years.
No, but like, yeah, you brought him in for a reason. You brought him in because he was cheap. He's going to be a cash cow. If you had him as a cash cow, you probably already punted him. But if you have him for the buy cover, you're still keeping him. Maybe keep him more for more buy cover. Give him another week, I think, unless you are forced to trade him because you got money makers like Sui or somebody else still making money for you, and you don't want to trade them out yet. So he's one you wait a week on, I think. I'm probably going to end up waiting a week on him.
Yeah. And
then I'll make the decision whether to cash him up or trade him out fully, depending on my cash situation.
And I mean, it's the other trades too. What is the situation with your other trades that you have to make? For me, Benji Marshall's a must bring in. Josh Reynolds wasn't a must sell, but because of his Origin commitments, his break-even's down to 30 after a good game last game. But because of his Origin commitments, for me, it's like, well, he's the obvious choice out of him and Hodkinson to go, being that my other halves are Daly Cherry Evans and James Maloney. So with that in mind, what are your most important trades this week? I was going to lose a bucket load on Robbie Rocker. Well, okay, so therefore Sims' 10 grand loss doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. It doesn't sort of put it much in much perspective. By putting it in perspective, I should say, obviously the rock out to Williams trade is the better trade for. Just on that, I've just had a thought, Maxie, and it is a tangent, but why not? I mean, I could keep Reynolds on the off chance that he doesn't play Origin for Origin 2, and I could go Maloney. Yeah, it could be Innes. I could go Maloney to Marshall, and that actually frees up 140 something, 148,000.
Yeah. That's another thing, but is that extra 50k you're going to make off by trading up Maloney worth those extra 7 points a week you're going to get by having Maloney in your team over Reynolds? And you probably have to trade Reynolds up to a better scoring half, or cash him out to trade up Hodkinson to a better scoring half.
Yeah, I mean, you do make a good point. It's Maloney hasn't been no scoring as well as we'd sort of hoped.
He's up and down.
He is up and down, you know. So it is a big question. I mean, there is that option there. Having said that, Reynolds is, I guess, more inconsistent than what Maloney is.
Yeah, he is. At least Maloney's got some consistent like kicking he does, and he does some consistent goal kicking as well.
Yeah.
Unlike Reynolds, who doesn't get that sort of extra boost of points.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Okay, and we'll have a look at one last player that's sort of been hot on the topic because we are starting to run out of time. Josh Dugan. Let's make it a double actually. Josh Dugan and Jared Hay. What should we do with these blokes? Is Dugan a buy and is Jared a sell, or is Jared a hold?
See, Haynes out injured.
Yeah.
Even if he comes back from injury, he's still going to probably play Origin. Well, he's not going to probably. He is going to play Origin if he's fit.
Yeah.
That's how they pick Haynes. So Haynes going to miss 14, 15, 16 for the buys in Origin, and 18 for Origin as well. So you get one game from 5 weeks from him. He isn't a keep.
And not only that, if I'm correct on your buys, he's going to miss 19 as well because Para had the buy in 19.
Para had the buy in 16.
Sorry, I completely missed
Para had
that
the
up.
buy in 16.
I'm blaming the man.
The 19 buys.
I'm
The
blaming
19
for
buys are the Broncos, the Cowboys, the Storm, and the Bulldogs.
Yep. No, all good, Banksy. I'm just blaming the man flu, mate. Messed that one up entirely.
So I think he's a sell, but in saying that, maybe unless you go on, if you haven't got on Nofaloma yet, maybe you trade to Nofaloma this week. But you can hold a week on Hayne and get a better. You might look for a better buy play. You might look for a Barber if you don't have him already. You might look at, say you might have him in the halves, which I don't think anybody has him in the halves. You could look at Benji Marshall for him or something like that. You might even have a wing fullback half in the halves to start with. You can switch them down and put cash out of, like, say, a Benji up there.
Yeah.
But if you got him, I think you got to trade him because he's going to miss too many games for you. You can't have that 300k price tag sitting on your bench for 5 of the next 6 weeks or something it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll probably be 6 of the next 6 weeks just due to his injury.
Yeah, how bad is his injury?
It's a grade 1 tear, hamstring tear. It's going to be touch and go whether or not he's right for Origin.
I would doubt he will play Origin then. At least Origin 2, sorry. Yeah, he'll probably struggle to play that. So you'd be thinking New South Wales would be looking at a Dugan to replace him, or a Brett Stewart if he comes back from his injury this week and guns it with no signs of obvious injury.
Yeah.
To replace him at the fullback spot.
So does that mean we hold off on Dugan if we don't already have him, or should we be jumping on Josh Dugan?
Dugan's buys from now on are crap. He misses 15 and 18, the next 2 big buys, but is good for Origin selection. So if he gets picked for Origin, he doesn't miss any more games. And wing backs are generally good at backing up from Origin games. It's the forwards you worry about.
Yeah.
Dugan's been a proven good Dream Team scorer throughout his career at the Raiders as well as so far at the Dragons. He's always had an injury concern, so to speak, at the Raiders, but maybe there was heartstrings more than actual injuries a lot of the time.
Yeah, look, I definitely feel that he probably had a more of a heart muscle problem, a cartilage problem than an actual problem.
Yeah, so I reckon he's he'll be in the top 3 wing fullbacks till the end of the year. He'll be there with an Inglis himself, and I'm going to say Barber. They'll be your top 3 wing fullbacks.
Yeah, I am getting the feeling, like just watching Barber play over the last couple of weeks, I'm getting the feeling that it's about to get scary for people who don't own Ben Barber.
Which isn't that many, I don't think.
No, well done, people. Good work for listening to us. We told you. I'm claiming credit. We'll claim credit.
Yeah, Dugan, like, if you have trades up your sleeve this week and you want to trade him in this week for this week's points, and to avoid him making too much cash so he raises too far out of your price range, he's one you get on this week. But if you can hold off a week, see how you go. I don't think bring him in this week if you can. If not, hope like fuck he doesn't rise too much.
Just interestingly too, those people who are trading out Jared Hayne, 22% of them are trading them out to Josh Dugan, and 13.9 are trading him out to Nofaluma. 7.5 are trading him out to Ben Barber. So they're your top 3 trade out options that are happening right now for Jared Hayne for those who are trading him out. And yeah, it's Josh Dugan, Nofaluma, and Ben Barber.
Yep. Which are the 3 I would recommend to trade them out for?
Absolutely. All right. Well, Banksy, I think that's it for us today, my friend.
I think it is.
We've covered off a few of the key trades. We've had a few tangents, as we always do. Thank you very much once again for being here, and I know it's always odd times when we record this over there in Kiwiland.
Only 6:30.
I suppose it's a lot better than 2 a.m. in the morning like it was the other night, Maxie?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for sticking with us. I know that it's probably been a little bit grating this week, more than usual anyway, as a result of my man flu, but certainly do appreciate you sticking with us. And have an awesome week in Dream Team. Good luck in those who are surviving in the Eliminator. Banksy and I are still in it, so we see that as a bit of potluck, but enjoy.
I'll be in it next week.
Score well, and I'll hold you to that, Banksy. And
I will be.
hopefully you're not affected too horribly by injuries, and you're